Hello, this is Pathfinder. Love you too, kid. Alright, so, let's get into this and I'll explain what my thought process on all of this was. So basically, I made a joke about it a little while ago. About creating character builds and naming it Character Builder, because that was a great joke at the time. But I decided that actually might be a good thing to do, like just making the character builds to sort of go through my thought process when I make characters for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and also because the video where I actually just explain the core rules is done really well. So I feel like going through character creation to begin with is kind of the next logical step. On top of that, there's another YouTuber by the name of Tulok the Barbarian, who does character builds for pop culture characters, and I really love that sort of thing. I have just always loved the thought that goes into that. But he does it for 5th edition, obviously, and besides the Wizards of the Coast thing, I feel like 5th edition isn't quite customizable enough to make everything you want to do, even if Pathfinder 2e doesn't let you multi-class exactly. But you'll notice, the first one up here is Puss in Boots. Because we're going to start with Puss in Boots, and I'm going to split this into 2 parts when I actually upload it to YouTube. And Puss in Boots will be the first one, and we'll just go over how I went through this and what the actual character build is. For the ground rules of how the character is, I'm only going up to level 10 in terms of creation. I could go up to level 20 because there's a lot of stuff and a lot of upgrades you get along the way that are, really important for a character's identity. But I prefer to go up to level 10 because at that point you sort of get a nice, powerful but still grounded character, and while in their own respective medias, characters tend to go far beyond that. Most of what you get past that point is pretty self-explanatory. So it makes sense. I could go up to level 20 if people would prefer to see full level 20 builds, but I kind of just felt like level 10 was a good cutoff point for the first 2 times I'm doing this. And with that said, we'll also be using the free archetype rule, because free archetype is amazing. I didn't go through and add a ton of gear or magic items, because magic items are, got you, Ruckus. Magic items are, yeah, exactly, GSG. Most of the high-level abilities just build on what is already there. And also, thank you for subscribing. And I'm doing this on stream because, 1, I hate editing, and 2, I feel like I get my thoughts across better on a stream rather than writing a script and turning it into a video like that. I know, I'm not good at that. And plus, you get to see chat here. So, starting with Puss in Boots, you'll see that everything currently is set to level 1. And there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, because it's just a good starting place and I didn't feel like increasing the level to show it at maximum statistics. So you can get a good idea of what a level 1 character looks like. And secondly, there is a little bit of debate about how I wanted to do Puss in Boots originally, in terms of what kind of ancestry he had. What I ended up deciding on. And we'll just get into the build now, because that just seems reasonable. I went over the rules. So starting off, I actually picked Halfling. So Halfling only has 6 hit points, but they're small, and they get Dexterity and Wisdom. Wisdom isn't really Puss in Boots' strong suit, but he is perceptive, so it works. He loses a little bit of strength, but that's alright. Not a big deal. You'll see with the abilities I actually put the points back into strength, as well as charisma. So you end up with a level 1 stat line of +1 strength, so 12 strength, 18 dexterity, because he's a cat. Speaking of, we'll get to that in a moment. +1 con. Not squishy, but not super durable either. He dies a lot. Also, not going to spoil anything from the new movie. Everything I talk about in regards to Puss in Boots is going to be in reference to the first, act of Puss in Boots 2. That way I don't worry about spoilers there. Great movie, though. A little bit of wisdom, and +2 charisma. And this is important, because he's going to be a Braggart Swashbuckler, which uses charisma and bon mot, where you basically insult your opponents in order to get benefits and bonuses. Ton of fun. Great stuff. So, Halfling, that's our stat line. Background, Outlaw. And here's where I'll mention the... Unironically, it's a great movie, yeah. Unironically, it's actually a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. It is much better than anybody would give it credit for, not having heard it's a great movie. Anyway, Outlaw. So Outlaw, It's uncommon, and this is where I will mention uncommon and rare stuff in regards to picking them as options. Now, technically you're supposed to ask your GM before you pick any uncommon and rare options, because they don't fit every setting, or they're not applicable for every play group. That said, most GMs will allow these sorts of things, because they're not inherently more powerful than other ones. Usually. There's a couple of exceptions, but usually they're not. You don't need to see the first Puss in Boots movie to appreciate the second. The second is just a good standalone film. So, Outlaw fits Puss in Boots. He is an outlaw. He's basically a Robin Hood-esque character, a Zorro-esque character. That thief who isn't really evil, they just are who they are. But he also likes this being the center of attention, and we will get to that as well. So, Outlaw is very good, but Uncommon means that you would have to ask your GM before picking the Outlaw background. You would also need to ask your GM before picking the Beastkin heritage, which is the heritage we're picking for Puss in Boots, because he's a cat. So, obviously, cat. And that's why we went with Beastkin Halfling, so that he can be a small cat, rather than picking a catfolk who are normally medium-sized. Regardless of how you want to build Puss in Boots here, he's going to end up requiring a little bit of GM fiat to allow for a small cat creature, because he either needs to be a halfling beastkin or a small catfolk. Because catfolk is an ancestry. I just thought halfling worked a little bit better for things like halfling luck. And because gutsy halfling is not something that we're taking because we're taking beastkin, but it is the idea of halflings are very brave. And as Puss says a lot, he laughs in the face of death. Yeah, exactly, GSG. We took critter shape here because that lets him turn into an actual cat. Now, you can't really technically fight as a cat, but you have a half form, which allows you to basically be the Puss in Boots cat that he is, while still, you know, being a halfling and doing all those other things. Critter shape is because, I mean, he can disguise himself as a regular cat. He can just do that, and that sort of seems very reasonable. Finally, Swashbuckler style and class feat. Class feat, dueling parry, because he fights with a rapier, one-handed. Makes too much sense. And then Wit. Wit gives you bon mot and training in diplomacy, and he's a very center of attention type character. So it makes sense for him, and the panache for doing bon mot is there. With that in mind, also, the armor we'll be taking is leather, because I'm pretty sure his boots are leather. When you get enough dexterity, you no longer need armor at all, so you can get rid of it if you think that the boots shouldn't count as armor at level 10. But in the case of starting off, the boots are leather. They're leather armor. Thanks, Odie. And I mean, that's all for level 1. Level 1, that's all we went through. Set abilities, we started off with Ancestry Boost. I kept 1 in Charisma, that's the free one from Halfling. Got +1 to Dexterity, +1 to Wisdom, and -1 to Strength from Halfling. Background boost, +2 to Dexterity, +2 to Strength from Outlaw. Again, this one's free, the Strength one. And Dexterity is from Outlaw. Class boost Dexterity, and then the 4 free boosts are Strength, Con, Dex, and Charisma. Because again, charismatic individual. Also, Persona music is on in the background because I love Persona music, and Ryuji will be after Puss in Boots. Now, you get a bunch of things from being a swashbuckler and from all that, like subtle theft from being an outlaw, which gives you the ability to steal things and all that. Good stuff. I have a video, Ruckus, on my YouTube about going through the core rules, so if you want to watch that, you can. Otherwise, it's a very simple system. Great system. Been running it for a while myself at this point. Confident finishers. Finishers are the swashbuckler style thing, where you just fight and that sort of thing. Obviously, Puss in Boots has a rapier. We have the rapier. Everything else is just regular swashbuckler stuff, and, I mean, besides the selections here, skill training, he started with acrobatics from being, one second. From being a swashbuckler, you start with acrobatics, but we took athletics, deception, performance, and stealth, because in the Puss in Boots 2 movie, and probably in the first movie, he loves to play the lute. And he's also a stealthy, thievery boy. Ring that, like and subscribe and ring that bell. I don't care. I like when people subscribe, I like when they like the video, but I don't, if you don't actually want to watch my stuff constantly, I understand. So, like, you know, do whatever you like. I'm not gonna post a lot of things to YouTube because I'm terrible about that anyway. So I just, unless I'm specifically making something for YouTube, I tend to forget. Anyway, that's level 1. And this is what your level 1 stat line is going to look like if you want to play Puss in Boots, or any other cat swashbuckler with a rapier. Pathfinder 2e keeps all this stuff organized for you, and this is effectively what your character sheet will look like. You have speed of 25 feet, size small, these are your stats, these are your saves. Pretty low fortitude save for Puss in Boots, but that makes sense. And then we got the rapier, which can do precise strike when you have panache, and the finisher when you're doing a finisher attack, which is a thing over here with the confident finisher. The system works fantastically with balance. Yeah, I don't need to think much when I'm balancing as a GM, and this character, Puss in Boots right here, a very competent and very well built character. You might think that as a Braggart swashbuckler, he needs more charisma, but you actually don't, because you can get panache while doing other things like tumbling through squares, which Puss does a lot of. So it works even if your stat for your main swashbuckler style isn't like maxed out immediately. There's plenty of other options, and it's a great stuff. Moving on to level 2. Oop, move this over here. There we go. I had to reauthorize. Because it does that sometimes. Don't worry about it. Level 2. Charmed Life. Because, let's be honest, Puss in Boots is a lucky cat. A very lucky cat. So, we take Charmed Life. This allows you to add 2 to whatever check you're doing for a saving throw, without anything else. It is just your reaction. You do that, you get +2 to that throw. So, like, say you need to make a fortitude save, and you're like, I have bad fortitude at level 2. I kind of want to make sure I'm going to pass this. So you add 2 to that using Charmed Life. Great stuff. Next, with our free archetype feat, which I mentioned at the start, I'm going to be using free archetype feat for these builds, Celebrity. Because he's a local legend. And he loves that to be that center of attention. And Celebrity here, the more people you have looking at you, the more content you are. Perfect. Perfect for Puss in Boots. 100%. The upstage reaction, right over here. When a foe attempts a skill check, but they don't get a critical success, you attempt to do better than them. You attempt to outshine them. So, on a success, you get a bonus if they failed, but if they didn't fail, you get, if you get a critical success on that skill check, you get a +1 to attack rolls, perception checks, saving throws, and skill checks at the end of your next turn. And you can just do that as many times as you want. Something really interesting about this is, depending on your GM, this may allow you to attempt to trip somebody who just failed to trip you. Kind of depends on what they mean by attempt to check using the same skill. Because, in theory, that would allow you to do that. Ask your GM about that. Personally, I don't think it's meant to have any actual repercussions. You're just meant to show that you can do better. And you don't actually do anything with that, but you could. Also, we're taking Catfall. Catfall, there is one small caveat here. Catfall makes complete sense. It's a cat. Duh, of course. But Puss in Boots actually can die of fall damage. In general. However, 2 things on that and why I still think Catfall is necessary. 1, let's say he wasn't legendary in acrobatics at that point. That makes sense. He fell from too far. And 2, and possibly more importantly, he was very drunk. So we can kind of explain that away and still take Catfall, because being able to fall from heights as a cat burglar is just too important and too fun to pass up on. I am a nerd. What's your point? Moving on. That's all for level 2. Level 2 is fairly simple and straightforward. It's just a couple of feats. Everything else you get is just automatic. You'll notice that anything that goes up normally automatically does so here. Great stuff. On to level 3. Level 3. Here's when you get a skill increase. I put the skill increase in Diplomacy because it helps Bon Mont and also helps with being a celebrity, because Puss in Boots likes to be a celebrity. We also got skill training in Intimidation here because of Ancestral Paragon for Adroit Manipulation. What this is, it's a halfling feat. This is a halfling feat that gives you better lockpicking. And I feel like that's kind of apt for Puss in Boots. So I took it. That's really the only thought process I had behind it. Because he was already trained in Thievery, though, it gave us a different skill training, which I decided to put Intimidation, because of his eponymous line that he says all the time, "Fear me if you dare," which I think is just a great insult. Gets cut off by the overlay? What gets cut off? Because if you're talking about this over here, this is... No, there's nothing beyond over here. If you mean over here, all of this should be here. Unless there was something that I'm missing here, or when I open something up like this. No, that's still there. Which part? Oh, this? Ah, yes, this. You're right. That does get a little bit cut off by the overlay. That's okay. There's not much here, but it's okay. How far it gets cut off? Okay, okay. So I can't really pop this out effectively, but you can at least see what it is, and I can explain it. You don't need to read the text in full here, but I will fix that for next time I do this, if I do this again. Steady balance. Steady balance is steady balance. It lets you, whenever you succeed on a balance action, you get a critical success, and it also lets you grab an edge using acrobatics, which you can see here, rather than having to do a reflex save. Not a big deal, because Puss in Boots will have fantastic reflex save, but it is still nice to have. How am I going to fix that? I guess I can just shrink this a little bit, and then, yeah, I can fix that for next time. Anyway, beyond that, you get Great Fortitude, Opportune Riposte, which is, if somebody fails to strike you critically, you can attack back. Stylish Tricks, Vivacious Speed, which lets you go faster. Definitely a Puss in Boots thing. And, I mean, that's all. Skill training, oh yeah, this was on Intimidation, yes. Alright. I mean, like I said, there isn't a lot. It's more of just sort of getting into that groove. I feel like Puss in Boots, you really start feeling like the character with this build around level 5 to 10. That's when things start to really kick off. Levels 1 to 4 are kind of just setting up that sort of thing. Level 4 is actually where I get the first thing that I really love from this, though, and that really makes this feel like a Puss in Boots build. I don't need a new overlay, Caden, it's fine. And that is Swaggering Initiative here. Swaggering Initiative it lets you, at the start of combat, when you would roll initiative, you get to get a +2 on your initiative roll, and you get to draw your weapon for free. It lets you just draw your sword at the start of combat and go into the fray. Even if it's an ambush, it's just a free action that you get to do. It's a fantastic feat, and it's hilarious and very, very fitting. Secondly, you get a Never Tire. Never Tire is a reaction when you become fatigued. You delay becoming fatigued by just wanting to please your adoring fans. Which, again, a very narcissistic style of feat, which I think is really good. Yeah, exactly. Now, a lot of people say in, like, for example, D&D 5th edition, that level 3 is when you get all your character stuff together, but really, I feel like you should always be getting more and more stuff that stacks onto it, and this is definitely true of these sorts of builds in Pathfinder 2nd edition, but most of level 1 through 4 is setting up for that. Levels 5 and onward, you start really feeling like that character, and that you're getting those tricks that the characters show off and that sort of thing. Level 4, though, Quick Jump. Quick Jump lets you make a long jump or a high jump as a single action instead of one. Which is, I mean, it makes sense. He does a lot of jumping, a lot of acrobatics, a lot of maneuvers and that sort of thing, which, again, will actually get to a thing that makes that even better later on. Because you'll notice that my athletics is still only trained, but athletics is normally used for jumping. Moving on to level 5, though. Level 5, our strength, Constitution, Charisma, and Dexterity all go up. Dexterity doesn't go up a full point. It only goes up to 19 instead of 20 because it is already at 18. But you start getting a little bit tougher, a little bit more survivable. And you also get a skill increase, which was put into Performance because, obviously. And we also pick up Halfling Luck. Halfling Luck is a once per day reroll on a skill check or a saving throw. Because, again, he's just a very lucky cat. And I feel like that's very fitting, and I like that. Not much at level 5, besides those ability boosts. Ability boosts are a huge deal and make your character a lot stronger, so you don't usually get a lot else in level 5, unless you're a caster. Then you get 3rd level spells. Moving on to level 6. We'll start going faster as we explain more things as they go. But level 6 is actually where things get really, really Puss in Boots-esque. and they will continue from here on. Vexing Tumble. Vexing Tumble is when you use Tumble Through, because that's the thing you do. Tumble Through is to move through an enemy's square. With Vexing Tumble, on a success, you don't trigger reactions, which is very important. And on a critical success, they're also flat-footed. And also you gain panache for both of these things. And yes, once again, tumbling through squares, sliding under people's legs, jumping around them. Obviously. Like, obviously. And it's a fantastic feat, and it works really well, and it's a lot of fun. Mesmerizing Gaze is that, you know the, like, cute, like, look that Puss in Boots does, where his eyes go all wide, and the animators want you to think it's really cute, but it doesn't make any sense to me personally? That's Mesmerizing Gaze. It is choose one target creature, they make a will save, or they're fascinated until the end of your next turn. You just baffle them with cuteness. And also pickpocket, so you can steal things from people's pockets without any penalties. Great stuff. And you'll notice that at this point, Fortitude has actually surpassed Will. Our weakest save on Puss in Boots now is Will, which is important. Moving on to level 7. I should also mention, I'm not improving my equipment as I go, because I don't really include items and runes in these sorts of builds, but they are important. At level 7, we would be doing 2d6 of damage with the blade, not counting property runes, and also hitting a little bit better, probably +1. I think +2 is level 8 or 10 or something. Similarly, our defense would actually be higher as well. We'd have +1 to all of these saves, I think at level 8. They're mixed up in my head when you get the runes. But we would also have +1 to our armor as well. So you have a little bit higher stats than what is shown here because of gear, but I'm not going to be adding those as we go, just because they're there, but they're not super important for the actual build. Automatic bonus aggression would do that automatically, but that adds things to the sidebar that I don't need. So, moving on. Level 7. Skill increase, I put that into Diplomacy because Bon Mot. Fleet, because he is a fast cat. Quick Squeeze, because he's very good at going through small spaces like tunnels and vents. Evasion is a thing you get where you're better at reflex saves, which you'll see here, master reflex saves. And Weapon Specialization, which gives you extra damage with your stabbing. Good stuff. Not much at level 7. Moving on to level 8. Level 8, Vivacious Bravado. Again, it's just like, these things fit so well, I see them and I'm like, I have to take them. There are even more stuff that I considered taking as we approach level 10, but there were just some things that I think fit even better, and I love that. There are so many options, and so many of them are perfect. Vivacious Bravado. When you gain Panache, you gain temporary hit points equal to your level, plus your Charisma modifier. So, with our Charisma modifier of +3, and at level 8, that means we would gain 11 temporary HP on any turn where we gain Panache. Now, you'll remember, previously, Vexing Tumble, if you ever succeed at that, you gain Panache. So what you could do is do a finisher, jump over somebody, do another finisher, and you have temporary HP. You don't have Panache anymore, but you've gained Panache, so you have the extra HP. So basically, what you're doing is you're darting around, stabbing, doing fancy attacks. Fantastic. And here, I also go away from Celebrity Dedication, because there was another celebrity feat to take Acrobat. Acrobat Dedication gives you automatic progression in acrobatics, which is why I take it here and why I haven't been improving acrobatics until now. And now we just get an immediate boost up to Master in acrobatics from taking Acrobat. We also take the skill feat Graceful Leaper, which is an Acrobat Dedication feat. It's one of those feats that, while it is a dedication feat, it also has the skill tag, meaning you can take it as a skill feat instead of just as a class feat. Graceful Leaper allows you to use acrobatics for your jump rolls rather than using athletics. So we no longer need athletics for jumping and all of that, which is great because we're not really going to be improving athletics. It's still useful for attempting to trip things, but it's not the main focus of the build. That would be a Gymnast Swashbuckler, which we're not building. All that's there. Moving on to level 9. And again, I can go through this quickly because Pathfinder 2e character builder is very simple, especially with Path Builder doing all the math for you. Great stuff. Skill increase, I put this one into Thievery, because he is a thief. Gotta get that at some point. And Cunning Climber. This gives our small cat a 10-foot climb speed, which isn't incredibly fast, but with Panache it is increased, and I think, even if it's not, a 10-foot climb speed makes sense because he's a cat, and he climbs a lot of things. Yeah, precision damage is going up. You'll see that Precise Strike is increasing, and the Precise Strike finisher is increasing as well. Very, very useful stuff. Again, not much here. Most of the stuff you get at level 9 is automatic. The only thing to pick is an Ancestry feat, which is why we took a Cunning Climber from Halfling. Again, this is why I picked Halfling over Catfolk, both because actually small without having to ask about anything, and because the Ancestry feats they get are really good. And moving on to level 10, the last level I did for this build, we have an ability score increase, which I put into Strength. Dexterity is now already +5 dex. We don't need the armor anymore. You can take the armor off if you'd like, though realistically it doesn't actually matter. You can just keep the leather boots and treat them as your armor and it will be the same thing. +3 con, and +4 charisma. A very charismatic kitty. And we get Daring Do. And this is why I wanted to stop at level 10, because this feels like a really good capstone, where from here on, you can kind of build it however you'd like, but this is a very, very important thing for Puss in Boots. While you have Panache, and you do something that would normally get a bonus from Panache, like Tumble Through, or in the case of Bon Mot, with the style of Swashbuckler, you are Diplomacy, you get to roll twice and take the better result. So in 5e terms, you get advantage on it, which isn't really a thing that's in Pathfinder 2e. Getting 2 rolls taking the best in Pathfinder 2nd is so incredibly rare. There are like 3 or 4 things that do that, and Daring Do is one of them. And it's really, really good, because it means that while you have Panache, you can just do all these incredible feats of jumping around, bon mot, insulting people, and doing all that, and it's great. Command Attention is from Celebrity. This is the next time we can get a Celebrity feat, where basically you have a 30-foot aura where you just force everybody to look at you. And you can make a distraction using that, but it's also that sort of like style that Puss in Boots wants. He's a living legend. He wants everybody looking at him. So it is 100% in theme. And finally, a skill feat for Kip Up. Kip Up lets you use a free action to get up from prone when you are currently prone. Now, as a free action, it's great. It doesn't have a trigger, so you can't use it outside of your turn. But if you get tripped and on your turn, you can immediately stand back up without triggering reactions. And yeah, it's pretty good. And that is Puss in Boots. Now, this is only up to level 10, like I said. If you want me to do up to level 20 for this sort of thing, I can do that in the future. But I just wanted to go through and sort of get that initial character building out of the way. And go through how you start getting all these stacking things and all these stuff that make your character who they are. And the concept of Puss in Boots works really well with Swashbuckler and that sort of thing. You'll see that right here, he has a base speed of 35 feet because of Fleet and the initial bonus from Swashbuckler. While he gets Panache, he will actually be going even faster than 35 feet, which is amazing. And he's a master in acrobatics with great saves across the board. Will saves a little bit low, but, well, that makes sense. If we were to update his weapons, he would be hitting even better than a +19 with a good amount of damage, especially while he has Panache for those extra precision points. And there you go. That's Puss in Boots in Pathfinder 2nd Edition.